What's up, YouTube? It's Salty Summon here, and I'd like to talk to you guys today about surf fishing, where I got started, and really what made me want to get into, I guess, YouTubing it. So, it all started, well, I guess our fishing addiction all started when it was me and my two brothers and my grandfather. We would go to a canal in his backyard. We used to live in Sunrise, Florida, and we had a canal in the backyard that we would just throw little bread balls we'd make. Actually, they're like little pyramids that we'd squish out of like old stale bread we'd microwave, and we'd just put on regular bass worm hooks and throw them out there, and sure enough, we'd catch everything from peacock bass to Mayan cichlid, catfish, all sorts of cool stuff. And we did that for years and years, and then we moved up towards the Sanford area, and we had some nice, ponds around us and stuff, but for the most part, everything was chained in, so you really couldn't fish them. We had Lake Monroe and St. John's River that, fed into it, and we'd take my grandfather's boat out once in a while, and we'd go fishing and tubing around and stuff, so that was always pretty cool. But he had a bay boat that really wasn't made for the shallow flats back there, so we never really got into the St. John's River too far. But it was pretty cool. We used to go down to a place and get alligator bites and stuff, and they had some really good deep fried gator bites, I tell you what. Then I remember I got into YouTube pretty big, and I'd get off work and I'd watch YouTube, and I'd see all these people bass fishing, so I was like, I want to get into bass fishing. So I started getting in pretty hardcore, obsessed with bass fishing. Got all the gear, would kayak, bass fish for hours and hours. And I feel like I guess wanted something more, something bigger. I wanted something that would like truly kind of almost scare me, I guess is what I was looking for. And I thought it was pretty cool, but it's kind of hard to obtain because, the coast is still pretty far, about 3 hours or so. So, being younger, that's kind of hard to do. So, eventually, my father met up with me and my middle brother, Chris, and we went fishing in South Florida on a charter, and I ended up hooking into, I believe, what was a grouper at the time. I mean, it just was immensely heavy and pulled me straight to the bottom and rocked me pretty much instantly. But, I mean, it just felt insane. So, ever since that day, I was, like, obsessed with trying to catch something like that again. And, I didn't have money for a boat. It was kind of expensive, so here I am at the house, still bass fishing, because I love bass fishing. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. They fight like crazy. They jump out the water. It's a great fight, so still love to bass fish. And crappie fish is good, because it tastes good. But when I started going back on YouTube after work, I noticed people like Bama Beach Bum, I guess, and Hey Skipper. Actually, I think it was really Hey Skipper first. And I was looking at his little rig time videos, and he would go out with his girl, and they'd go surf fishing. And I was like, man, that's kind of cool, actually. I was like, you can catch some pretty nice-sized fish from the beach. But this was like in Florida. I was watching these videos in Florida, and I'm like, I wonder about North Carolina. So, unexperienced me. My birthday was coming up. It was December. I'm not even going to give specifics because, Anyway, it was in December. And it was very, very cold. I went out to a local sports store, and purchased a Penn Pursuit 3 8000 series combo, which everyone knows you shouldn't really buy combos, but anyway, I was new at it, so whatever. Bought the combo. It's a heavy power fast action, like ultra fast action rod, things like a stick. So I put some mono on there, and I got some heavy weights, and I didn't know really how to cast, so like my very first cast, I actually snapped the line, and my rod wasn't tight, so it launched into the ocean. And I think the water temp was like 50-ish degrees or high 40s. It was very, very cold, so I actually went in and got the other side of the pole. Still got that rod today, actually. And that's when I was like, alright, I need to get my stuff together. So I went back to the car, turned on the propane heater, warmed back up, and kind of took my butt home at that point because I didn't want hypothermia. So that was kind of a bust. Got skunked. Started really picking up an obsession to the surf fishing thing. Like, I don't like failing. Like, it's not in my blood. I hate it. So I started becoming obsessed with how to catch a surf fish. And here comes Bama Beach Bum, angler up with Brent, cameraman Ron. Was kind of actually more recent towards the end there. You know, Bearded Brad as well. But, like, I was watching a lot of surf fishing videos. A lot of Hay Skipper and Land Shark Outdoors, Black Tip. Like, I was just, I wanted to learn as much as I could because there's a lot to it. I'm from bass fishing. I'm used to, like, fishing structure, finding points, fishing beds. I don't really fish beds, but you know what I'm getting to say. They're predictable. Ocean fish is a little bit harder because, there's hundreds of miles of coast and the weather changes, and you have now something called tides. And that's kind of like a new concept to a bass fisherman when you're really trying to learn tides and how much it actually can affect the fishing patterns. So I started watching more and more, and I went out for my second run, which was much later on in the year because I was not going back out and getting hypothermia again. And when I went back out, I fished for probably, 2-3 hours, and I ended up catching a whiting. And I was like, oh my god, I was super excited, and this whiting was only like 8 to 10 inches long, and I about lost it over this. It was the bee's knees, man. So anyway, after that point, I was just gonna continually want to get better and better, and gas was affordable, but I was driving like a freaking race car at the time, my Eclipse, which was more so built to race than it was driving 3 hours. And if you know anything about a DSM, they're not really made to go far. So, ended up I was actually into motorcycles at the time, so, like, I put pole holders on my bike, and I'd actually go around to, like, the reservoir and the Tar River and stuff, and fish bass fishing for that, for the most part, until I got a Jeep XJ, and I started going to the coast a lot again, almost every weekend again, and I got better and better and better, and years went by, and here I am today. And I've learned a lot over the years. There's a lot of mistakes I've made, a lot of people I've met, a lot of weird stuff have happened, a lot of crazy stuff. Like, one of the most craziest things I think that's ever happened to me was I was surf fishing Wrightsville Beach. I believe it was Wrightsville Beach, yeah. And I was tying on a rod, and this older lady from Ohio, I don't know if I have any video footage of it because I was more worried about saving her, but anyway, I'll get to it. So I was tying on a lure, and I saw this older lady with her friend playing in the surf, and it was a red flag day. It was pretty rough. They were like maybe knee deep. I was like, whatever, they're having fun, and they're laughing, and then one of them fell over. I'm still tying on my lure, minding my business. I was like, do whatever. And all of a sudden, I saw, like, her facial expression instantly change, and she started coughing up a bunch of water. So, at that point, I kind of freaked out. I'm like, this lady's actually drowning. She's not having fun anymore. And, like, I guess I went into, like, alert mode or something, and set my rod down and went darting. I didn't even turn on my GoPro or anything. I went darting and picked her up. And she was, like, coughing up water like crazy and choking, and we got her up out of the water, and she thanked me and said she was from Ohio, and she hadn't been to a North Carolina beach, and she was a little girl, and she was like, I guess she just didn't have the strength to fight the waves because she didn't remember him being so strong. And that was like one of the craziest things that's probably happened to me surf fishing. But there's a lot you can learn. I'm still learning today. Reading the beach is always a challenge. Everybody makes reading the beach seem like you can just walk up there and be like, boom, that's a hole, that's a hole, that's a rip. Like, okay, rips are kind of easier to spot out, and even the shells on the beach kind of point to them. But when you're talking about like holes and stuff, I mean, you have days where it's completely flat. You can't tell where those holes are unless you've Google mapped it and look at the topography map. Or topography. Topography. I don't know how you want to pronounce that. The depth map. The nautical chart map. Until you look at that map, it's really hard to tell on a flat day where to find a good fishing hole at. So it's really just kind of becoming familiar with spots and migration patterns, and water clarity makes a big difference. I learned to start using tools. I found out that preparation, living 3 hours from the beach, you really need to learn how to catch fish. I mean, it puts a lot of pressure on you to like really prepare, as to where people who live on the coast are just like, you know what, I'll just go today, I'll go the next day if I don't catch them, and the next day, and then eventually I catch them. But when you live 3 hours away, you work a 5 to 6 day work week. I mean, you got one day, you can't really mess it up to get good footage. So and some days, this weekend, I didn't even get to go out and fish. I was busy helping my brother at his shop. So you got to do a lot of pre-trip planning, and it comes down to looking at the waves, the current, the storm systems coming through, the pressures, the lunar phases, the tides. I joined a website called SaltStrong. I'm not trying to be all sponsorship-like because I'm not sponsored by them, but I mean, I've learned a lot. They've taught me a lot of inshore techniques and stuff I would have never thought of, and I bought in when it was pretty cheap. They give you strike score indicators, which that's really, really cool. It tells you at different tide stations how good the fish might be biting based off the solar lunar activity, and you don't even have to do the math. That's a big gain right there. Google Maps has gotten incredible with looking at the coastline. I mean, you could literally see the holes now with Google Maps, and it stays pretty updated, so you could pretty much go by that and walk the coast and see where you're at and find the good holes, the trenches, the cuts in the sandbars, the deeper holes, like I said. So prepping makes a big difference, I feel like. If you just go out there kind of blind, I feel like you might get skunked. I mean, you might get lucky, you might get blessed and get on a bunch of pompano, or you might go out there and waste it completely. I feel like a lot of people, when they go out surf fishing, they don't check their bait enough, I guess you would say, or their hooks enough. Like when you throw a double drop rig, you should really honestly be checking your bait every 5 to 10 minutes. If it's sitting for longer than like 5 to 6 minutes, either you're wasting your time. Every time you bring it back after 5 minutes and there's nothing on the hook, 5 to 10 minutes, you're either wasting your time there, or they're stealing your bait off the hook every time, and it's going to probably be a lot of smaller bait, or you're going to get hooked up a lot. A lot of people don't realize that, and fish are always constantly on the move, but you have to be in the zone where they're feeding. If SaltStrong has taught you anything, it's the 90-10 zone. So that is part of the issue, is finding the 90-10 zone, and once you do, fishing is fairly easy. It actually gets pretty tiring once you find that zone. I mean, if you got 4 rods out and you're throwing shrimp and cut bait out, I mean, you're not sitting down for 10 to 12 hours trying to get good video footage. But it's so much fun. I mean, you're so worn out by the end of it, but it is so much fun. And then you're so thankful you get an opportunity to catch, like huge bluefish or something like that back to back. So I definitely love surf fishing, and it has its days. I'll go out there with my brothers and we'll get completely skunked, but it's still nice being at the beach and people could literally go out there and just sit there and look at the ocean waves for hours. So if they could do that, I could probably waste the same time with the fishing rod in my hand, at least. Anyway, that was kind of my, I guess, little YouTube channel page about me. I could probably do some more of these videos if people like it. Leave a comment down below, and it was cool getting y'all to listen to me chit chat for a while.